Hi, my name is Jessica McCabe-Birnbaum, and I want to start off by saying thank you for allowing me to do this video as a second interview. I'm absolutely thrilled about the opportunity available at the Rubino Academy. For this video, I thought I might do a presentation to my fellow colleagues on something Mr. Krzyzikowski mentioned during my first interview. He said that a lot of the students at the Rubino Academy have a hard time learning, or they simply never learned how to learn. So I thought doing a presentation to my colleagues on the principles of learning and how we can help teach our students how to learn was a great idea. So with that being said, I'll start off with the definition of learning. Learning is the acquisition of knowledge or skills through experience, practice, or study. Learning can also be defined as a change of behavior as a result of experience. Now, for my own personal experience, I'd like to point out that kind of a funny story. When I was younger, about 5 years old, I used to go grocery shopping with my mom, and my dad used to drink Canada Dry religiously. He used to drink it. And when I went to the grocery store with my mother, I saw it on the shelf, and I said, "Mom, doesn't Dad need more Camden Dry?" And she started laughing at me hysterically. I couldn't figure out why. And then when we got home, she sat down with me, and she wrote out the name Camden and the name Canada, and she explained to me that Camden is the town close by, not the country of Canada, and she went through, the different sounds of the names and explained to me, why she laughed at me and, why it was funny. So that's just a little tidbit of something that I experienced younger and how I perceived what my father was drinking. And, maybe I saw something on the news about Camden, and I saw my dad drinking Canada Dry, and I maybe just put the two and two together, and that's how I perceived it. So, there are many principles of learning. And the first principle is readiness. And readiness implies that students are eager and ready to learn, which unfortunately is not always the case. Students might have outside worries. They might be worried about the grandmother in the hospital. They might be worried about their mother, if their mom's going to be home when they get home because maybe their parents were fighting the night before. Besides worries, they might also have interests. They might have things that they're so interested in that they can't think about anything else when it comes to the classroom. When I was in grade school and the new Sega Genesis came out, I was thrilled and I was so excited to get home and play Sonic and play with Tails, and I really just didn't care what was going on in the classroom. I just wanted to go home and play my video games. So students could have worries, they could have interests, they could just have overcrowded schedules, which can affect their readiness. They could have just too much to do, softball practice, maybe they have band practice, they have 2 hours of homework, they have to take their aunt to the doctor after school. There could be a lot of things that they have going on. And these things, can weigh too heavily on their minds, and this affects their readiness to learn. Another principle of learning is exercise. Exercise states that those things most often repeated are best remembered. Students don't usually learn how to weld after one shop period. So you're in high school and, it's first day of shop class. Most likely your shop teacher is not going to say, "All right, guys, let's weld stuff." Because, you're going to have a mess. There's just going to be students and, cuts and bruises and bloody fingers everywhere, and it's going to be a complete mess. So basically, as instructors, we need to start out gradually, and through exercise and through practice, our students learn. Continuous exercise, continuous practice, directed towards a goal, is how our students can learn new things. Another principle of learning is affect. Affect is based on the emotional reaction of the student. Learning is generally strengthened when accompanied by a pleasant or satisfying feeling. So, on the other hand, experiences that provide feelings of frustration or defeat or anger are going to have, an unpleasant and an effect on learning. For instance, if you are a first-year medical student and, you were asked to perform brain surgery one day, on your first day, probably things aren't going to be very pretty, and things are going to, get messed up, and it's just not going to be a good experience, and you're going to take those negative feelings with you and direct it towards your learning and your experience there. So, As educators, we need to try to remember the effect of learning on the students and what kind of emotional aspect our material is giving them. So, primacy is an excellent principle of learning. Basically, what this is it refers to the state of being first, which often creates a strong impression. Basically, what this means in regards to education is our students need to feel that the information we're giving them the first time is the correct information, and we're not going to go back and say, oh, this wasn't right or that wasn't right, because that kind of disrupts the rapport you have with your students. For instance, if you were a trade student and you were going to school to be an ultrasound technician, and your instructor said, we're going to do things this way, and then the next day she came in and said that was the incorrect way, we're going to do things this way instead, it kind of, it just disrupts your rapport with your teacher. So basically, as instructors, we need to try to do things right the first time so that our students have a good rapport with us. And then another principle of learning is intensity. We need to be intense with our students. We need to get them involved. We need to be vivid. This being intense in your lessons and in your material is so important, because when you have, I'm sure many of us have had that boring teacher in high school or middle school, the Bueller kind of teacher who just, just babbles on and just reads from the book, and you're just like looking at the clock, and you just want to get out of class. So to improve our chances of teaching our students, we need to be intense. We need to be vivid in our lessons. We need to get those students to be interested in what we're teaching them. Another principle of learning is recency. Things most recently learned are best remembered. The further a student is away from a new fact or concept, the harder it is to remember that concept. Always considering what your students recently learned is key in planning your upcoming lessons. You want to make sure that your students are learning things gradually. If you didn't teach, B before A, chances are A is not going to make any sense to your students. So we need to do things in a gradual way, and also keep in mind what we recently taught our students when we're creating our new lesson plans. Perception. Perception obviously is such a big factor in learning. This graph shows various ways in which we perceive things. Most of the things we perceive are through sight, 75%. Hearing, 13%. Touch is at 6%, and smell and taste at 3%. So those percentages reflect how we perceive things and how we learn from the things that we perceive. And perception results when we give meaning to sensations. Sometimes you might be out with a friend and you go to a restaurant and maybe you smell something that's not very pleasant. Maybe your friend doesn't smell that same thing. Maybe they don't have a good sense of smell, or their nose is clogged up. You might come out of that with a different, learning experience, perception as they would. So factors that affect perception, which is a big thing in learning with the students, because the way they perceive themselves is going to reflect on the way they're going to perceive the material that you're giving them. This is a picture of a kitten perceiving himself, a little bit bigger than what he probably really is. We had a dog once, a Jack Russell Terrier, and he would see a dog bigger than him, like a big Rottweiler, and they always said, little dog, big ego. He would puff up and think he was 5 times the size of the other dog. It was all in the way he perceived himself. So, the way our students perceive themselves is going to affect the way that they learn in our classrooms. There are a couple of things that affect perception. First is physical organism, which basically just means, our eyes, our hearing, our sight, the way that we're going to, physically perceive our world. Second is basic need, which basically means to maintain and enhance the organized self. This is both a physical and a psychological need. So, we're constantly wanting to improve our appearance. We're constantly wanting to learn more, get higher degrees. We want to enhance ourselves. Goals and values. we all have different goals and values. Your students are going to have different goals and values. You know, some of them might want to go on to college, some of them might just want to get through high school. You know, everything is going to have, everyone's going to have different goals and values. And the next one is self-concept, student self-image. You know, the students, the way they perceive themselves is going to, you know, have a lot to do with the way that they are learning in your classroom, in our classrooms. You know, it's a shame that a lot of times peer pressure and things like that can have an effect on students. But, you know, it is something to keep in mind in your classroom. Time and opportunity. Sometimes the students, you know, they don't have the time or the opportunity to, you know, learn to perceive things around them in the classroom. Element of threat. Fear adversely affects perception by narrowing the perceptual field. It's a shame sometimes, you know, when students are scared, and you know, they could be scared for various reasons. You know, there could be fighting going on at home, there could be, you know, different things going on. You just don't know. They could be fighting with their friends, and they could be in fear from it, and this is definitely going to affect the way that they perceive things and they learn in the classroom. So the next principle of learning is insight, which involves the grouping of perceptions into meaningful wholes. This basically means, you know, we want to teach our students that every aspect that they're learning is going to come together as a whole and a complete picture so that they would understand. And the last principle of learning that I'd like to speak out, and the most important one, is motivation. You know, kids need to be motivated in the classroom. If they're not motivated, most likely they're not going to learn. Positive motivation is provided by the promise of reward upon achievement. These rewards can be personal or social and can involve financial gain or public recognition. In order for motivation to be successful, students must believe that their efforts will be suitably rewarded. You know, if a teacher promises that this student's going to get this reward for doing this, and then the teacher doesn't deliver, the student can, you know, lose rapport with that teacher. And you know, a lot of times with our kids in the school systems, you know, they don't get a lot of motivation at home. You know, I came from a very non-academic family, so I was kind of self-motivated through college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. And, you know, I really self-motivated myself to get through college. But sometimes, you know, not every student can do that, and they really need that person to motivate them and to, you know, help them to learn. So that wraps up my presentation. You know, I just want to say that, you know, learning is achieved through many principles, and, you know, it's so important for us as educators to strive to teach our students how to learn effectively so they can be the most successful in every aspect of their life. So, with that being said, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to watch my video, and I'm very eager to hear back from you soon. Thank you.